welcome to this latest video. This one I'm going to be talking all about footwork, so why it's important and how you can practice it at a sort of really basic level. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Okay, so why is footwork so important? I've got three main sort of reasons that I'm going to try and explain as best as I can. And the first one is that it enables you to control and manipulate distance very quickly and easily. So distancing, especially in things like sparring, is very important, but in just fighting in general, distancing is a very perhaps underlooked but extremely important factor. Think about when you're learning a kick for the first time, you have to learn the right distance to position yourself from the target in order to get maximum power. And you only really think about that in the early stages, and then you kind of forget about it. But in reality, things like kicks, strikes are very distance sensitive, and if you misjudge that distance, you're going to either lose your power or potentially just miss the target in general. So being able to move very fast enables you to control that distance. Right, so the second thing I'm going to say is that it allows you to maintain a good sense of balance at all times. So normally you have your fighting stance, whether it be slightly wider or longer, whichever, it doesn't matter too much, but the point is that your fighting stance is a default position of really solid balance and structure. Typically, say you're standing like this, these directions, these forward and backwards directions that you're engaging your opponent with are very strong. You've got both your legs to support you, and that allows you, having solid balance allows you to generate force with your legs by pushing off the ground. So if you ever tried to punch anything hard in a swimming pool when you're swimming, it's just very difficult to generate power because you've got nothing to actually push off. So having solid balance is extremely important. And say when you're walking normally, you temporarily create a moment of weakness in the structure of your balance, essentially. So this is fine, I'm solid forwards and backwards, but when I cross my legs over, I'm sort of temporarily upright like this, which is weak in all directions to being pushed around. So you create that temporary weakness in your balance structure, if you will. So learning how to move, and in an unnatural way, how to move without compromising your balance is very important. And the third and final thing is that footwork and good foot positioning is vitally important to almost all techniques, and striking is the foundation of strength, like I said earlier. How in order to generate force, typically the human body needs to push itself off of the floor or off something solid, utilizing the power of your legs. I mean, the arms can be strong, but really most of your strength and power comes from down here in the legs. So it's the foundation of strength, and you need to be able to utilize that, and good technique requires good foot positioning. Good footwork is very important, so being able to move your feet correctly is going to be a key to success. Okay, so now we're going to look at some simple elements of basic footwork and movement, and how you can drill that. So starting whatever your natural start, your fight stance is, whatever it may be, and then you're simply going to move very slightly. The distance you want to move your foot doesn't want to be that big. You don't want to be lunging out here like this. Very small steps, one small step forward with the lead foot, and just bring it back into how you were. So this distance of my feet, slightly forward, bring that one, the back foot forward, it's the same distance, and you're in the same position as you were before. So it's very small steps, just shuffling. This is your simple basic movement, and my balance and the structure of my stance is always solid. It's always the same. I'm not reaching too far, I'm not bringing my feet too close together. Just very short shuffling steps, and you can practice just by doing this, just moving forwards and then backwards, just shuffling like this. I tend to do this every morning typically, and then I'll do it on the other side because I like to practice both sides, even though it takes twice as long. But it's just good because it is quite unnatural at first. It takes some getting used to teach your body to move in a different way from walking. So that's forwards and backwards movement. Okay, so now an extension of that forwards and backwards movement. Say you want to move a little bit faster, you want to close the distance quite quickly, you're going to do a slightly different version. So it's just, you're going to step forwards the same, and then you do briefly bring the foot further in, and then out. That allows you to step out a bit more. So you step the same distance forward with the lead foot, bring the back foot right up, and then assume the same normal fighting distance with your feet. See? Forwards. And this is for a bigger distance, so you don't have to worry as much about your balance being compromised here, because there's a greater distance between you and your opponent. Okay, so now let's look at sideways movement, left and right. So it's the same thing, starting in your default fighting stance, and it's the same sort of movement, just going to move very slightly to one side with the lead foot, whichever is the foot that is closer in the direction that you're moving. So if I'm going right, this foot moves first. If I'm going left, this foot moves first. So move that foot very slightly, and then again you're just shuffling out slightly, coming back to default position. Moving, shuffling, little steps at a time. And you can just practice moving like this, just left and right, swap in. And just doing it repetitively. Can be boring drilling stuff, but it is a very good way of cementing it into your head, especially something that is a bit unfamiliar, more sort of awkward way of moving. So now when it comes to moving a bit faster, it's the same thing. So you're just going to move across a bit more, and then all the way out a little bit, bring your feet right in, and then back to normal stance. And go this way, going to come out a little bit, bring the feet right in. And then you can also, there's another variation where you can kind of cross step like this as well. But it's the same sort of movement, just done laterally instead. Alright, so the last one of these basic sort of movements is going to be a quarter turn. It's like a 90-degree turn, like a swivel. So I'm just going to turn around 90 degrees. So I'm basically just in fighting stance. Go push, shuffle, and come around 90 degrees and end up in the same fighting stance at the start. But you want to make sure that this back foot doesn't end up going around too far, and you end up the back foot like down here. Instead, so to show you what I mean, instead of coming so that this back foot is in the same alignment as it was before, a little bit past this one, you don't want to make sure you don't want to accidentally come around too far, and instead of being here, this foot's ended up here. That's quarter turning. You know, it's useful in you know, say you just avoid a punch and then spin around, come out on the other side of someone. That's another very useful element of footwork that you can just drill continuously, just kind of go back and forth, just left and right, just rotating constantly like that. You can just drill it, get it into your head, and you should really reap the rewards for it later down the line. Okay, so that basically covers some of the sort of very simple starter elements of footwork and how important it is to learn, and how you can just sort of just drill it a bit and practice it. I will just go through my sort of footwork drill that I do. I do this typically, it's one of the first things I do at the start of my sort of morning training routine, if you will. And it's quite simple, nothing too extreme. All I do just to sort of refresh my head and cement it in there a bit more, because I do it consistently, and that consistency adds up to better results, even though it's not a really solid, intense footwork session. So I'll just do 10, or I'll do 5 shuffles forwards, and then 5 back. I did 4 just then, I know. And then after doing that, so it adds up to like 10. Now I'll do 10 of the longer movements. So I'll do it in sets of just groups of 2, so 2 forwards, 2 back, so I don't take up too much space. And then I'll end up doing the same thing, I'll swap stance and do the same on the opposite side, like that. And then I'll do right and left shuffling, so moving this way, 5, shuffles that way, 5 this way, and then same again. And then we'll do 2 for that one, 2 back, so it adds up to 10 of each one. Swap stance, do it, and the same thing, right and left, and then I do 10 quarter turn rotations, so it'll be like 1, 2, like that, just going one way then the other way. So you're practicing doing both directions, just doing it 10 times each for basically each type of movement, and that doing it on a consistent basis helps to really just help cement it for me, to make it, to get override that unnatural element of it, to just make it more of an automatic thing that whenever I'm in this stance, this is how I move. Obviously normally when I'm just walking about, I walk like this. If I'm ever like this in my fighting stance, I move differently, and it just helps to separate that. So hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like and all that stuff. Found it useful in some way, and apart from that, I will see you on the next one.